This guy, Lou Bloom, is a genuine psychopath. But that's not what makes him dangerous. His real weapon is language. The polished corporate dialect we've learned to call manners. It's hollow, but it's exactly the thing that lets him impress people, get what he wants, and climb. The question is how and why? What's actually going on underneath that voice? And what kind of character are we really looking at? The film never tells us where he came from. There's no past in it at all. And Gilroy has said he left it out on purpose. So we'll start there, piecing together who this man is and where he might have come from. From there, we'll go deeper into his psychology and try to reach a diagnosis. And in the final part, we'll look at his real trick, how he manages to keep that psychopathy hidden. That part might be darker than you expect. Almost every character study starts in the same place, the past. Lou Bloom breaks that rule. We never learn a single thing about his life before the first scene. When the film begins, he's already fully formed, and he stays that way. That absence is the point. If there's no wound to point to, then whatever Lou is wasn't done to him. It was there from the start. The film seems to be quietly ruling out the version of this story where a broken childhood builds a monster. So, we can't dig backwards. We have to piece the past together from the evidence he leaves lying around. Start with what he owns or doesn't. When we meet him, Lou is broke, at the bottom. He's out at night stripping copper wire and stealing chain link fence, scrap metal, anything he can carry, and selling it off piece by piece. His clothes are cheap. His apartment is small, bare, joyless, the home of a man with no one to share it with. The one soft detail in the whole place is a single houseplant he waters with real care. There are no photographs on the walls and no sign that anyone has ever been over. And look at his body, gaunt, hungry, wide-eyed. Gyllenhaal built that look on purpose. He said he wanted to look like a coyote, and he lost the weight to get there. Gilroy uses the same animal when he talks about the character. This isn't a man who fell on hard times last month. This is someone who has been hustling to stay alive for years. Then there's the moment that tells us the most. Lou takes his stolen metal to a construction site, sells it, and immediately asks the foreman for a real job. He's turned down flat.
I'm not hiring a fucking thief.
And that's the quiet tragedy hiding under the whole film. Lou wants in. He isn't content to be a criminal. He's reaching for the legitimate ladder, a title, a business of his own, and the straight world has already shut the door. And here's the detail that ties it all together. Lou didn't go to school for any of this. He built himself out of the internet, free online courses, business writing, the whole self-improvement library, taken in alone. Which makes the theft literal twice over. He strips metal out of buildings and sells it. He strips language out of the web and wears it. So what can we actually say about his past? It's tempting to fill it in. A man who's been poor and alone for a long time, self-reliant since who knows when, with no support network and no one to soften him. Ambitious enough to want the respectable version of success, and locked out of it over and over until the only door that opened was one no sane person would walk through. Whatever made Lou Bloom, it made him before the camera arrived. That story writes itself, and I'd say Gilroy leaves the space open precisely because he knows it does. Which means the origin question can't be settled here. The only thing left to work with is the man in front of us. Let's be careful here. Nobody diagnoses a fictional character, but the behavior can be measured against the frameworks professionals actually use and see how cleanly it fits. And with Lou, it fits almost too well. The standard tool for this is Robert Hare's Psychopathy checklist, a list of traits that separate the genuine psychopath from someone who's just cruel or troubled. Where Lou lands on that list is the specific part. Psychopathy tends to split into two clusters. One is the lifestyle side, impulsive, reckless, chronically out of control. The other is interpersonal and affective. The charm on the surface and very little feeling under it. Lou sits almost entirely in the second. He steals constantly and lives off what he steals. What's missing is the chaos. He never once loses control of himself. Forget the Hollywood image of the psychopath, unhinged or out of control. Back in 1941, the psychiatrist Hervey Cleckley published the study that shaped everything after it, and the title carries the argument, The Mask of Sanity. His insight was that the real psychopath doesn't look insane at all. He looks calm, organized, patient, even likable, while behind the face there's almost nothing. That's Lou exactly. He operates on a flat baseline in situations where most people would feel fear or revulsion, and it doesn't reach him. Heads up, heavy spoilers in this next part. If you want to stay clean, jump to 9:10 and come back after you've seen it. Now let's go back to construction site. A man calls him a thief to his face, and Lou keeps pitching. That's what a flat baseline looks like from the outside. That's the first marker. Now line that up with what we found in part 1. The instrumental worldview shows up again, pointed at people now. Everyone Lou meets gets sorted into one question. What can you do for me? His mentee, Rick, is cheap labor. His rival, Joe, is an obstacle to be removed. And Nina, the news director, she's leverage. None of these are relationships, and Lou never pretends otherwise. That's the second marker. Then there's the grandiosity. Lou sees a CEO in the mirror. He talks about his company, his team, his standards. He gives Rick corporate pep talks he learned off a screen. Always believed he belonged at the top. I'd say he's been running a version of himself in his head that reality hasn't caught up to yet, and he's waiting for it without much doubt that it will. That's the third marker. And here's where part 1's biggest clue pays off. Remember, the film quietly refused to give us the broken childhood story that actually maps onto something specific. Psychologists distinguish the psychopath who was made, driven by anxiety, damage, things that happened to them, from the one who simply is, cold and low anxiety from the ground up, no fear engine running underneath. Lou is unmistakably the second kind. Nothing in him is reactive or wounded. He's just built this way and calmly optimizing. So the diagnosis takes shape. A man with no empathy, no remorse, no fear, and a bottomless belief in his own importance, who treats every human being as a resource and never once flinches. Every damaging thing he does is planned. And he does it at the same temperature he negotiates scrap metal. That's the fourth marker, and it's the one that makes the rest of them work. Which brings us to the heaviest thing on the list. And the film makes you wait for it. Rick works for him. He's also the only person in the movie who ever pushes back. Earlier on, he'd worked out that Lou was hiding evidence from the police, and he used it to squeeze him for a bigger cut. So watch what happens at the end of the chase. The gunman's car goes off the road. Lou walks over, looks inside, comes back, and tells Rick the man is dead. Then he sets up his shot and sends him in. Rick gets shot. And while he's lying there, he tells Lou he knew the guy was alive. Lou keeps filming, and then he explains himself, like you'd explain a decision to somebody in a meeting. He can't work with an employee who abused his bargaining power once and would do it again. Listen to how he says it.
I can't jeopardize my company's success to retain an untrustworthy employee.
He's not enjoying this. He's delivering a personnel decision to the person it was about, while that person bleeds out in front of his lens. And then a detective says it to his face. You filmed a man dying, and Lou agrees with her. That's his job. That's what he does. That's the fifth marker. And it's not guilt getting pushed down. The question never turns up at all. There was nothing there to push. There's one more, and it's the one that makes everything else possible. The charm. The checklist actually predicts it. Glibness and superficial charm isn't a footnote to psychopathy. It's the very first item on Hare's list. The smooth talk, the quick answers, the easy confidence, that's supposed to be part of the package. But here's the word that matters: superficial. That charm was never real warmth. In every psychopath, it's a mask, a performance laid over an empty room. Most of them just wear it so well you never see the seams. Lou is the rare case where you can. Watch him closely, and the charm is running a beat too hot. The words a little too rehearsed. The smile a little too wide, the eyes a little too eager. He's performing it, out loud, where you can see the effort. Which raises the real question of this whole video. If the charm isn't natural, where does an empty man go to learn it? That's the sixth marker, and it's the one with an answer. Go back to that one line from part 1. Lou built himself out of the internet. We passed over it quickly. Now it becomes the whole point. Listen to how Lou actually talks. It sounds like a motivational seminar read out loud.
Who am I? I'm a hard worker. I set high goals, and I've been told that I'm persistent.
Catch the register there. That's not how people talk. That's how a resume talks. A hard worker. Persistent. These are the exact phrases you'd scrape off the first page of any career advice site. And Lou delivers them about himself, unprompted, to people who didn't ask. Notice he never drops the act, even at 3 a.m. in a car with one desperate employee. When he reminds Rick that he warned him, that he told him so, it lands like a manager quoting policy back at someone. Calm, superior, procedural. Here's the thing all these lines share. They're borrowed. This is a man who learned to talk by studying the internet's endless supply of success speak. Free courses, motivational articles, corporate jargon, and memorizing the sound of it. What he has isn't a personality. It's a script. And here's why it works. We've built a world where sounding right is almost the same as being right. I'd argue corporate language now functions as a costume of competence, hard work, high standards, growth. Say the words in the right tone, with enough confidence, and people hand you authority without ever checking what's behind it. Lou found the cheat code. You don't need the substance if you can perfectly perform the surface. And the film doesn't need Hare and Babiak to make this point. It's got Nina. Nina runs the newsroom at the lowest-rated station in LA, and she tells Lou exactly what she wants. Urban crime creeping into the suburbs, wealthy victims, poor attackers. She just says it, out loud, in an office, to a guy she's known for about a week. So he brings her what she asked for, and she buys it. Somebody on her staff pushes back on the footage, and Nina wants to know if it's legal. Nobody in that room asks if it's right. It airs. Then he decides he wants more. He takes her to dinner, and he tells her he's worked out that her contract is nearly up, and that next month's ratings are the thing that decides it. No build-up. He just puts it on the table like a finding. She says he's threatening her. He says he's negotiating.
So you're threatening that if I don't...
I'm negotiating.
You're threatening to stop selling to me.
That's your choice.
And there's the whole man in 2 words. The same register he used on the guy at the scrapyard pointed at something no scrapyard foreman ever got asked for. Then she tells him friends don't do this to each other. And watch, he's got a line ready for that too.
A friend is a gift you give yourself.
She doesn't leave. The deal goes through. And later you'll hear her telling her own newsroom that Lou is inspiring all of them to reach a little higher. Which means he isn't fighting anything. 2 of the biggest names in psychopathy research, Robert Hare and Paul Babiak, spent years on exactly this type. The psychopath who trades the prison jumpsuit for a business suit. What they found is that the modern corporate world, fast, competitive, high risk, and high reward, is almost a perfect habitat for people like Lou. They walk in looking like rising stars, confident, driven, fearless. And those very traits get mistaken for leadership until the damage is already done. That means Lou's emptiness stops being a liability there. It becomes the qualification. It turns out that sounding human is not a complicated thing at all. It can be picked up through shortcuts, learned like a cheat, a language shallow enough that a man like Lou can master it without ever understanding a word of it. In fact, it is a language especially open to people like him. Dan Gilroy has said that if you came back in 10 years, Lou would be running a multinational, and that the skills he uses in the stringer world would serve him just as well in a boardroom. And perhaps that is the reason it works. This dialect suits the Lou Blooms of the world because it was people like Lou who shaped it in the first place. Thank you for watching.